the game is very unfinished because it has a very messy development. Wow. Okay. Crash Twinsanity is pretty mediocre when it comes to difficulty. It's not quite ridiculous easy, sure, but it is a good game. It can just get really, really annoying because some of the levels are good, guys. You just heard me read that, and that's talking about Crash Twinsanity. So today I'm talking about why it should get a remake. Okay, hear me out. Crash Bandicoot Twinsanity should get a remake, a proper remake. Why? Because the game was good, in my opinion. The game was good. The only thing, the problem was, I'll go point out the problems. First problem, the antagonists. The twins should have been fleshed out more. Should have been more levels. It should be less playable levels again, because it was the same levels majority of the time. So that's probably the mistakes that they made in Crash Bandicoot Twist Insanity. So, how can they fix that if they do attempt to make a remake of Crash Bandicoot Twist Insanity? Because Crash Bandicoot is about time. That was the last Crash Bandicoot game that I know that came out. And that came out last year. So, basically, if they make a Crash Bandicoot Twist Insanity, because they made Crash 1, Crash 2, Crash 3, and all, they make them remakes. So I was like, if they make that, if they make them remakes, they got to make Crash Bandicoot Twist Insanity. They gotta make it proper. They gotta make it right. Like some of the villains and some of the villains on there, some of the bosses on there were actually good. Okay, but some of them was kind of trash. I ain't gonna lie to you. Some of them was kind of trash. But it was one of my childhood games, and I kind of want to replay it again. And if they just bring it back on PS4, PS5, they just bring it back. I think it probably do a lot more better with the technology they got right now. The game came out 2004, and the year is 2022. So imagine they remake it now, and it probably go do good. But it's just my personal opinion on the Crash Bandicoot Insanity. The bosses, like I said earlier, the bosses could have been better, and the levels could be a lot more better. Like some of it was replayable, but it was like replayable levels. Like you got Eva Crash, you got to help Cortex. Then you had to help Cortex again. It was like three levels of that. Like you had to help Cortex, and Cortex can have a gun, his ray gun. So that's actually beat all the odds right there, and make most of the levels kind of dull and boring. Even though the game was not boring, it was funny. It was funny, good, and also replayable. But the thing is, it was to the point of you wanted to improve it. Like you want the game to involve something more than just these levels that you were seeing and that you was playing in Crash Bandicoot Just Insanity. Now, in my personal opinion, Crash Bandicoot Just Insanity, the main antagonist, the twins, shouldn't have been flushed out more. And it could have been a level for them. Like you play, imagine playing the twins. Imagine playing with talking birds, and and they not using these big giant robots, so they're not using that. So they kind of using like, imagine they're probably using guns or something like small ray guns or something. But either way, they couldn't have been flushed out more, and no text was just there to be playable and funny at sometimes. But most of the time, it just he was just there to help Crash out and be some buff. Like he will make these and make them enemies looking kind of weak. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like you shoot them one blast, that was it. And then most of the levels, like I said earlier, we basically replayed the same levels, but in different, just in different time and a different characters trying to get Cortex or something like that. Now, when they went back to the time, went back to time, well, not back to time. I mean, went to the other dimension. When they went to the 10th dimension, it was kind of like, wow, they could have did a lot more with that. Like we explored, we did all that, but they could have did more with it. Bigger maps, bigger exploring. It's an open world, so it's an open world, and it's just that it kind of don't need no narrow path. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not kind of like they're not Crash Bandicoot games. Like Crash Bandicoot games, you gotta have narrow path. You gotta tell you where you need to go. Just need to go there. Nowhere else. You can explore, but not too much explore. It's just you can find gems, crystals. It was all good, yeah. But at the same time, at least have the player explore more and make it a lot more open world. Not to the point where it don't take you to this path and that path. Like it was a lot of glitches in the game. You can just skip some of the levels and you can just jump on this worm and you can actually just go up there and that was it. You basically passed that level. Okay, some of the bosses you could have skipped some of the bosses. Crazy, right? So yeah, they kind of did mess up on some of them development, and like I said earlier in the video, it was rushed, yes, but now they don't have to be rushed now, cause they can basically remake Crash Bandicoot Twinsanity, and they can make it a lot better than what they had it in the beginning. Okay, the plan, the timing, the levels, they can evolve all that if they want to. This is just my personal opinion. Why they need to remake Crash Bandicoot Twinsanity remake? They make all the other Crash Bandicoot remakes, and don't get me wrong, I like Crash 1, 2, and 3. I like all of them. But at the same time, I just like Twinsanity more, even though it was not developed all the way to perfection. Actually, no game gonna be in the perfect remarks. Some games may be. That just due to the historical fashion and also due to the development, the entertainment, the fun, the replayable events, levels. That's the goal that go into all the gamings. Finally, I will come talk about the setting and the soundtrack. Okay, soundtrack in some parts it was actually good. The soundtrack was good. I actually liked the Tristan and Sandy Island. Like after you enter into dimension to 10th dimension, and then you get to the beach and everything. After you ride on Cortex, and you start to hear that soundtrack. Like, I just like that soundtrack. Like that soundtrack. Yeah, in the setting. Every soundtrack must goes well with the setting. Now, I ain't no professional at it or nothing like that, but I do know how to make a good setup when it comes to the setting and soundtrack. The soundtrack gotta match the setting. It just can't not it just cannot be the setting and the soundtrack be off. Like imagine Crash start becoming a dark fantasy game. And then we having dark fantasy music. Imagine that. Now, that would be not Crash. That would be more like what would that be more like? Oh my goodness, I can't even think of it, but because I can't even think about that, man. Like Crash being a dark fantasy game, no way. So that's why it gotta be a setting and it gotta be funky, upbeat music that bring the whole family together. Cause it was a family game. Yeah, like cause Crash is just a family man, and he just loved being Crash. He just love doing all crazy things. He just love doing what he gotta do. Do he do this? He do that, and he just be Crash. So that's what bring. Crash Bandicoot Twinsanity all together. Like Crash being Crash, Cortex trying to get Crash like always, trying to make sure that he don't do this, he don't do that, trying to get Crash back so he can actually see who he is and what he is. Yeah, it does. Twinsanity got a lot of stuff, and the reason like they super develop it and they didn't finish it is because well they was trying to meet the deadline. But in my opinion, finish the game before you go in to actually call it finished. Like no, I'm about to say that wrong. My bad. But what I mean to say is don't finish the game too quickly because you will mess up a masterpiece just like that. So if you're dealing with games, dealing with anything that artistic or anything like that, creativity, it takes time. It take redevelop. It take certain things also. So it take time to actually figure out some of the settings, some of the soundtrack, which go with that, what go with this. It takes time. And that's why I think Crash Bandicoot Twinsanity need a remake so they can do it properly. But that's my personal opinion. I'm about to end the video, but if you got any opinions on it or anything like that, just let me know in the comment section. If y'all don't even want out, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Small note, I didn't have no gameplay. It's been a while. Sorry.